What's up everyone, it's Cameron back again with another Sony head unit review. Today I've got a new one. This is Sony's XAV-AX8500 and I'm excited to open this thing up for you and show you what it's all about. If you haven't already seen some of my video reviews yet, the way I like to do this is give you a close-up look of the unboxing, show you what's inside the box. I'll give you a good view of all the contents, some specs, and then I'm actually going to throw it in my test bench and power it up to give you a live demo of some of the key features that I like to call out. And with this particular unit, I'll also be calling out some of the comparisons in terms of features with Sony's XAV-AX8500 ES. That's, to some degree, it's basically the sister unit. You'll see what I mean when I pull this thing out, with some key differences though, so look out for those call outs too. And one last thing, if you like this type of content, I'm always trying to film new and cool product reviews and installs, so do me a favor, subscribe and let me know you like this content. So let's dive in. All right, so let's talk about what you're seeing here. This is a demo unit from Sony, thus the unbranded beautiful box. So packaging would look a little different if you purchase this from the store, but the content inside is going to be the same. First, let's talk about some specs though. This is the AX8500, like I mentioned. It's Sony's latest digital media receiver as of the time of this review. It's a lot like some of the other models that Sony has introduced over the past year or two with some key differences. I would consider this unit a blend between Sony's AX8100 and their 9500 ES, both of which we've reviewed in separate videos on our channel if you're interested in seeing those. So some high levels first. This unit features an HD 10.1 inch capacitive touchscreen. It's a two-piece system where the screen is mounted to a single DIN chassis. So yes, this unit fits in easily with a one DIN dash. It has a built-in amplifier that supplies 20 watts RMS times 4 channels, which is pretty standard. Being a multimedia player, this unit also does play video via either an HDMI input on the rear or USB storage device. That's probably one of the biggest differences here to call out between the 9500 ES and this AX8500, among other things that I'll get into. It also has wireless CarPlay and Android Auto, which are all but standard now in most aftermarket head units in this class, but it's worth calling out. And lastly, this unit is iData Link compatible, so it's great for those OEM upgrades where you might have some features like climate control built into your OEM head unit, and you don't want to lose those. So let's open this thing up and show you what's inside. All right, so I pulled everything out here along with some of the plastic film and bags that were on top of this. So let's start by talking about what's on the table. Well, starting with the fun part, this 10.1 inch touchscreen, it's a beaut. This is a capacitive touchscreen, which is similar to what you'll find on all of your modern smartphones. It's responsive to things like your fingertips, but not your nail, not plastic pens or tips of like items or metal or plastic and such. It's only responsive to things like your fingers. It also, if you can see here, it has an anti-glare film on it, and I can show you this a little bit when I tilt. It's not just a clear screen. In my experience, these anti-glare films don't completely eliminate the glare, but it definitely helps. I'd say between 40 and 50% of the glare is probably cut at the worst times of the day, but you're always going to have those terrible angles and the time of the day when the sun affects visibility on the screen. Resolution-wise, you can see the screen is inside here when I give it a little tilt, but resolution-wise, this screen has a 1280 by 720 resolution. This is on the higher side when you compare it to a lot of the entry-level head units. Now, one of the differences, or one of the differences to call out between this screen and the 9500 ES screen are these buttons along the bottom here. You can see these are traditional buttons. So like the other models in the XAV-AX lineup, it has these buttons located at the bottom of the screen with things like home, volume. This is a programmable button in the center, previous index, and then voice recognition for things like Siri. Now the 9500 ES only has two touch programmable buttons, and I'm doing buttons in quotes here because they're not traditional buttons like this. It's the face of the 9500 ES is a completely seamless and buttonless design. It's just one flat surface. But and that 9500 ES has buttons on the left and the right that are programmable, but they're touch. So just something to note. Now if I flip this over on the back side here, now one of the things that you can immediately see here is well, I'll tilt it this way, is this adjustable tilt and swivel mechanism here. This is a newer design when you compare it to some of the other older units, like smaller units like the AX8100. The key difference being basically a horizontal axis. So this thing tilts up and down this way. It tilts vertically this way, and then the difference between the 8100 and this unit is the horizontal. You can see here it will shift horizontally this way. So it really gives you some flexibility when it comes to mounting this thing into your dash for virtually any vehicle dash to get it into the location and the angle that suits you as the driver or wherever you're trying to mount it. And then on the back here, this is what fixes the unit, the floating screen, to the single DIN chassis down here, and you'll screw this in and fix it onto the single DIN chassis down here. So I'm going to go set this down. So what's nice about this setup is that you can get an enormous floating screen like this in virtually any dash, since it's a single DIN chassis. You'll mount this into your adaptive dash kit for your car first, and then you'll fix the screen to the single DIN chassis. I showed you that a moment ago. So very versatile. What's really nice, it's not a double DIN. It makes it compatible with virtually any vehicle's dash, which is nice. Now a couple other things here to talk about. On the left, you have your your GPS antenna. This is really used by this unit to improve the accuracy of your smartphone's GPS. That's really what it's used for. But it is required in order to use CarPlay and Android Auto, so don't leave it out during your installation. Then you have the USB-C extension. This is an extension that this will plug into the back of this unit, and then it can wire directly to wherever you want it in your vehicle, or to an OEM USB adapter if your vehicle already has those USB plugs throughout your car somewhere. But you can wire it wherever it's convenient to you. And this is a USB-C. This unit only has USB-C plugs. So if you want a traditional USB, you're going to want to purchase a USB to the traditional USB-C to a traditional USB adapter. Moving over to this side, first thing here is the units. This is the primary wire harness. This is what you'll merge to your vehicle's harness or to another vehicle-specific adaptive harness. It has things like power, ground, amp, turn on, speaker signal output, illumination, and so on. Very important. This is your steering wheel control adapter. You can see it's just a plug. This plugs into the back of the unit, and this side will be hardwired into the respective wires on your vehicle's harness. You'd have to look up those wires and hardwire it. So this is only used if you plan on manually wiring and programming it. They make a ton of adapters, vehicle-specific adapters, that make this very simple, but nonetheless nice to have. Up here you have some mounting hardware. These are the screws for mounting or fixing the chassis to the dash kit. These are the screws to fix the screen to the chassis, some nice zip ties for wiring. You have some covering plates. These cover the sides of the tilt mechanism on the back so that it looks clean and seamless. And then this is the microphone for your wireless calls. It has a mount in here too, but you can see it's a lengthy wire that you'll wire. I typically place this in the upper left-hand corner of a windshield, but you can place it wherever in the vehicle. And then lastly, you have the camera and pre-out harness. This harness houses things like I'm going to pull them out, these yellow ones, 3 camera inputs, 1 for backup camera and 2 accessory camera inputs if you want to use those. And it also has 3, these components here, 3 5-volt outputs, preamp outputs, front, rear, and sub. I always like to see 5-volt preamp outputs. It makes for the unit a great candidate for external amplifiers and just a larger custom installation on a vehicle with amplifiers and speakers and such. So along with a subwoofer. Now it's a mono subwoofer output. It's not stereo. You have 1, but nonetheless, very expandable. And then on the bottom left-hand corner of the screen here, just a couple warranty cards and some documents here. If you want the full manual, you're going to want to go to Sony.com and download it though. So next up, I'm going to wire this thing up to my demo bench and give you a sneak peek at the user interface and some of the key features that I like to cover while it's turned on. So let me go do that. All right, I got everything wired up on my test bench here, ready to go. The first thing I want to demonstrate for you is startup time. It's a common question I get when testing these units. I think, you know, the days of 20-second or more startup time is long gone. These are pretty quick now, but I want to demonstrate this to you by simulating when a car turns on. So I'm going to do that right now. You can hear me flip on the switch, and now we're waiting. There you go. So it's pretty quick, about 8 to 10 seconds is what I measured, averaged between 4 or 5 times that I've done it. But other thing that I wanted to show you, let's say if I started the car in the parking lot, I threw it into park real quick, the unit's actually going to prioritize the camera feed, and it's going to display that feed much quicker than what you saw on the screen right just then. It's closer to 5 to 7 seconds. So I'm just going to go ahead and demonstrate that. So I'm going to turn the unit on, and then I'm going to turn the camera feed on. So this is simulated me being in park right now. Now you can see me. So hello. Let's go ahead and go out of the camera feed though and get to the home screen. So this is the home. You're going to find at the bottom a quick menu right here. This is all the apps. Well, there's a quick menu of the apps. I'll show you that in a moment. It's customizable. And then the obvious clock in the background. No, this clock is not removable. Maybe someday Sony will add some, a software update that'll allow you to kind of toggle it and remove it in the settings. But at this time, it's a static clock, regardless of kind of the background that you put on there. You can change the background with a custom image though, or you select from some of those presets. I'll get into that in a bit. But the background is defaulted to black, and both these clocks are going to be static on the screen. So let's talk first about the quick menu here and all of the various sources and apps that you have available on this unit. To see everything, I'm going to go ahead and click on the expansion, all apps right here, and now you can see a list of all your apps and all of the sources that this unit has for audio, video, and so on. You see radio, HDMI, Bluetooth, rear camera, settings, USB, camera 1 and 2. Now these cameras are the extra camera inputs on the back that I went through. You have phone, devices, Sirius XM, and you can customize the position of each of these just by tapping, holding, and now you can see that kind of got highlighted, and then just moving it to wherever you want. Now, just to demonstrate here, I'm going to go ahead and move USB up into the quick menu for the home screen because I'm going to be using that in a moment. So I'm actually going to go ahead and remove Bluetooth. Let's just remove Bluetooth. Actually, let's remove rear cam. So I'm going to pull this down. I'm going to click on USB. I'm going to bring it up. right? And now let's close. There you go. You can see USB is now present on the bottom in the quick menu now. So you can do that to any of those apps or sources that you want. All right, so I'm not going to demonstrate every aspect of this unit today, but I am going to go through some of the key features that I think are of interest and set this unit apart from some of the other units on the market and other Sony units like the 9500 ES that I've mentioned. Starting with the HDMI option here, this is one of the key differences between that 9500 ES, among other things, and this 8500, the ability to play video and the HDMI input in general. The 9500 ES is more of an audio quality driven head unit. It doesn't have HDMI capability. This unit does. It has that micro HDMI input on the back of the unit. Now the setup that I have for you today is going to be using an iPhone and an HDMI to Lightning adapter, which will allow me to mirror my screen from my iPhone directly onto this unit, and I'm going to demonstrate what video looks like through an app. You can play video or audio this way from your iPhone, from whatever application you want to use. This includes things like Netflix, YouTube, which is what I'm going to demonstrate. I've used DirecTV, YouTube TV, really anything. So let me go ahead. I've already got things hooked up. I'm going to click on the HDMI and show you quickly what this looks like. And right away, it's going to default to whatever's on the screen of your phone at the time. And I've got my phone off to the side here. All of the controls, you still have to use your phone here via this HDMI input. But let me go ahead and just click into YouTube and show you an example of a video, and this automatically pulled up my another previous review from from the Car Audio Now YouTube channel, but you would have seen the standard YouTube interface, and you would have needed to scroll through and you could find all of it, any video that you want via the app like you normally would. So let's go ahead and play this, and what you can see is that the video automatically oriented itself instead of that vertical screen view. It's going to always automatically orient itself to the best view here. And up here you can see you can turn, you have a couple of options for video quality, and that includes contrast and color. So you can set the contrast and color with two different types of custom settings. Video quality wise, I think it looks great. It's clear, much nicer than what you would see on the more standard 800 by 480 resolution screens on the market. Some people comment about 4K or higher resolution than this 1280 or HD resolution screen on these units. Maybe it's just me. I don't see the benefit of a 10-inch screen having 4K resolution. It might make sense when you're looking at a picture on an 85-inch screen, but from 10 feet away on your couch. But let's be honest, I think on a 10-inch screen like this, this is a small screen. Cramming 4K resolution onto a screen like this is probably a waste of money anyways. Anyway, you can use this HDMI hookup though, this input on the back of the unit, for virtually anything. I demonstrated one adapter, one setup with my iPhone, but you can use a game console, Blu-ray player, whatever device that has an HDMI output, you can use it on this unit. So it's pretty nice. Now, one thing to remember here while we're on the video topic is that when this unit is wired properly, you can't watch video while you're driving. In particular, the parking brake must be on in order for you to be able to watch video. That's by design, and it's because of one, it's obviously a hazard, it's a distraction, it's dangerous. I wouldn't necessarily recommend watching video while you're driving unless it's purely for your passengers, and two, it's illegal in many states. So, but that said, there is a way around this safety feature, just like the way I'm actually demonstrating this for you today on my test bench. I've went ahead and hooked up, in this scenario, I've hooked up that parking brake wire. There's a sensor wire on this on the harness to a grounded switch that's on my table here, and I can toggle it back and forth. So here's what it looks like if you didn't bypass that brake, but that parking brake, and the parking brake wasn't on. So you'll see video blocked for your safety. This is what it's going to see. This is what it's going to say if you haven't bypassed that or if your parking brake isn't on. I put together a video on how to bypass that parking brake safety feature, so check it out if you're interested. But I'm going to go ahead and flip this back on. And let me go back to the home screen though. We're going to move on and continue to go through some of the other features. Let's talk about USB next. USB is similar to HDMI in that you can play both audio and video files directly from a mass storage device, USB thumb drive. That doesn't mean that you can use your phone as a USB device though. Most phones don't double as a USB or a mass storage device where you can actually navigate through a file structure and find audio or video files directly on your phone. So just note that iPhones are a good example of that. You can't plug your phone into USB and go find a video file. But to demonstrate this USB functionality, I have my own test thumb drive. I'm gonna plug this in, and then I'm gonna go ahead and click on the USB app from the home screen. Boom, it's gonna go directly into your audio or video files and start to play. In my case, the last video that I was viewing on this unit prior to the video, this was a video test file that's on that USB drive. But you can quickly navigate through all of your video and audio files, the file structure of your USB device, by clicking up on the top left here. Looks like a video, and then you can go to the root. So this will show you whatever the folder structure or setup you have on your device that's plugged in. You can navigate through all of the various folders, go back to the root, right? And you can also toggle easily from this video, audio video thumbnail here or icon. You can quickly toggle from audio to video here, and you can see this is going to go to audio now with this audio symbol. So if I select an audio file, it's going to go ahead and play. I'm just going to click on something. You can also see that icon up here on the top left, and you can switch at any time directly from where the audio or whatever file is playing. So pretty cool. Let's go back. Now, I think one other thing that's worth mentioning about USB before we move on, though, check our website. We did a full written review on this head unit, and in that review, we've named off all or listed out all of the compatible files, audio and video files that can be played on USB. Not all files are supported. You can also find that on like the Crutchfield or Sony.com on the details of this head unit, but make sure that you check and that the file type that you're going to be using for your audio or video on your USB drive is compatible with this unit. All right, now I've talked about the wireless CarPlay and Android Auto, the feature, the fact that this unit is compatible with it. I don't have an Android device on me today to test, but I am going to demonstrate really quickly what it looks like on an iPhone. One of the things you might notice now on the screen is this icon for CarPlay. This appears when the unit connects to your device, and that's going to automatically do it because it's wirelessly, just like Bluetooth would work. And when I click on it, you're going to go to the standard CarPlay experience. This review of this head unit isn't about CarPlay, so I'm not going to go into details, but I will say it's standard. What you see on this device is what you're going to see on an OEM head unit and 90% of the other units on the market in terms of CarPlay and Android Auto. I haven't experienced any abnormal delays, glitches, or connection problems with any of the Sony units I've used recently, this one included. I strongly recommend CarPlay and Android Auto using that over Bluetooth, just because in my experience the connection is stronger. It uses Wi-Fi instead of Bluetooth, and the music quality is better most of the time, at least in my experience. Downside though, using CarPlay and Android Auto on your device is that you can't access Wi-Fi on your phone at the same time. Since this CarPlay and Android Auto, the wireless functionality, uses Wi-Fi, you can't do both at the same time, but that's not a Sony thing, that's just a CarPlay or Android Auto thing. Let me go back home. So the last thing I wanted to quickly touch on from the home menu area before we get into the settings tab is the camera features. So if you wire this unit up properly, you can either access your camera feeds, the video feeds, for all three of these camera options and inputs at any time by using the apps from the home screen, or you can also use what's called a trigger, which basically, an example of a trigger is when you put the car into reverse. That is a trigger. It tells the head unit when to automatically go to the rear camera. You can do that for each of these cameras. You can hook them up to a switch and the feed will automatically appear on the screen. I'll talk to that a little bit more when we get further into the settings though. Let's start with sound. And on the AX8500, this unit has at the very top, it's a built-in equalizer. So this is a 14-band equalizer. You get some great, mid-level tuning done. This isn't anything like a 20+ band equalizer, but this will cover 90% of the use cases for tuning any sort of mid-level system, and that includes an amplified system. And what I like about this interface is that it allows you to create 2 different custom presets and save them. So to do this, and I'm just going to turn this to flat, to create your own custom equalizer settings, you're just going to tap on whatever the frequency range or band that you want to adjust, and you're going to kind of click and drag it up and down, and then click on save, and you can see there's 2. And by selecting one or the other, I'm going to click OK, and it's going to save it. I'm going to click cancel for now. I'm going to go back. But what I also like is, so that was one way to create a custom setting. But what I like about this interface too is that you see all these different presets down here. I felt like, so let's say that you found one like rock. It sounds really good, but you felt like there was still just a little bit too much tweeter, or it was a little too high and bright for you. You can actually use this rock preset as a template and save it as a custom one, and just by tapping into here. Now you can see all of the rock configurations are saved, but let's bring down some of those like vocals and like the highs, right? And bring it back down to a level that I'm comfortable with, and click on save. And now you can save that as your custom EQ. So kind of cool, worth calling out. I'm gonna go back to, I'm gonna exit without saving. I'm gonna go back to the sound. And the AX8500 is one of those big areas that where this unit differs from the 9500 ES unit. The 8500 here does have that graphic equalizer, which is what I just showed you, but it does not have what's called a parametric equalizer like the 9500 ES does. The 8500, this unit, also does not support high-res audio file formats, and that's probably also worth noting, and probably one of the reasons why that parametric, the parametric equalizer doesn't exist here. You have the standard graphic, which is very good as it is though with the 14 bands. Most of the other stuff in here is pretty standard. You have you have your subwoofer level, where you can control the subwoofer level output, balancer, and fader. But one other thing I do want to touch on is this listening position, and this is more for audiophiles and installers who want to set the soundstage in the vehicle. It adjusts the timing for each of the speaker channels. There are a couple presets here, but you also have a custom setting where you can actually measure and enter in the measurements from each of the channels. And in this case, let's say one channel aligns with one speaker. You'll measure from that speaker to wherever the focal point you want in the vehicle. Typically that's like the driver's side headrest, right? That's where your ears are. And then you can go in and change that distance, and then it's gonna align all of the sound to one point using these measurements. So this is pretty nice as well. I'll go back. And then quickly down here, the crossover, this is pretty standard too, but you can set frequency floors and ceilings, frequency floors in the form of a high pass filter here for the front and the rear channels. You can see along with the slope, and then you can also set the low pass filter and the phase for the subwoofer. Now, neither one of these three channels, and obviously these three channels align with the RCA outputs. Those are the 5-volt RCA outputs that I showed you on the harness. But one thing to note is that neither of these channels have what are called a band pass filter, which would allow you to set both the high pass and the low pass for one channel, something that I would have liked to see, but it's kind of locked in. Front and rear both only have high pass filter, which is fine. Most of the time, those front and rear channels are going to be used for your 6.5-inch components or coaxials. And then your subwoofer, obviously, you're really only going to need the low pass, but it doesn't have band pass. Worth noting. Let's go back. Let's go all the way back out to the settings page. Next up is the customize area. And when I click into there are two things that you can customize on this head unit. And no, the color of these buttons and the illumination is not one of those things. These are always white, but you do have two options. You have one is this custom menu button. This is referring to the center button down here, and you can choose what function it's going to do when you hit it. And there's two options that you can see on the screen. You can either mute, and what that'll do also, if you hold it, it'll turn the display off, or you can change the source and just cycle through the sources, which you probably would have done. You can do that directly from the home screen on those quick icons in the quick menu that I showed you. But nonetheless, you can control and choose from two different options on the function for this particular center button. The second piece that you can customize on this head unit, and arguably the more important one, is the background image. So you can load a custom background image via a USB drive. And I mentioned this a little earlier, I have my USB thumb drive already connected. You can either select from a series of presets though. Right now it's black. I already did this once, which is why you see something here, but you can load up to 2 images, custom images, and cycle through those too. But let's just demonstrate real quick going through and setting up your custom background image using your thumb drive and an image on your thumb drive. So I'm going to go ahead. This is you can obviously see this is my drive. I'm going to go to test images. I think I selected this one. Let's just load this one up. This is a Raptor. I'm going to click OK. Now you can see it down here. I'm going to click OK as well, and that's going to set this background as my background image. Click on home. Boom, you can see the background image is set. You can also still see the clock image there. It doesn't remove that. And I'll go back to settings. Okay, so the last thing here worth covering is the camera input settings, and you can find that here in the application. And I will mention before I even get into the camera settings, you also have the ability to integrate the iData link, right? And that's what you see here. I don't have that hooked up. It's obviously on a bench. It's not hooked up to a car. This is an iData link compatible unit, and you can go into the application settings for both that iData link, and if you have Sirius XM, this is compatible with Sirius XM. You just need the adapter and you need a subscription. So just note that real quick. Real quick note before I get into the camera display. But once I get into the camera display settings, this is a cool setup because you can, one, hook up a total of 3 cameras, which is cool, but 2, you can wire them in such a way that they are triggered based on a switch or some other sort of signal. For example, and I mentioned this, putting your car into reverse, and when this interruption, you can see there's an interruption toggle for each of these camera inputs and feeds. If you toggle, when this is turned on, if this unit senses power or it senses that trigger for the backup camera when your car, when you put it into reverse, if this is on, it's going to take over the screen. But if you turn that off and you put your car into reverse, it's not going to take over your screen. You're going to have to go into the setting in the app, and you can do it manually. So that's pretty cool. But if you wanted to turn it off, you could just toggle the view of any of those 3 cameras via those app icons I showed you on the home page. Again, as long as those cameras have power, it's pretty flexible. I know there are also some vehicle-specific camera kits out there that you can probably integrate pretty well with this system. Or, you know, if you wanted to hook up a couple cameras, like one over the bed of your truck or on, you know, your mirrors or in your tailgate or something, and then you wanted to toggle them whenever you wanted just by clicking onto one of those apps, you could do that. And I also picture this pretty useful for, you know, people like the older Jeeps or any vehicle that has, or off-roading vehicle that might have some of those accessory toggles where you can hook up to 5 or 6 different auxiliary feeds, 12-volt feeds. You can hook up cameras, use those switches, and have it set to interruption. So whenever you switch one of those auxiliary switches, it's going to take over the screen. So there's a lot of use cases you can use this for. It's pretty flexible via this camera display settings, and worth noting. One last quick mention in the system, steering wheel settings. So this is steering wheel control. For those of you who aren't going to be purchasing a vehicle specific steering wheel control or adapter, which will automatically kind of program and control the system, you can go into here, and if you wire your steering wheel control up using the harness that I showed, looks like a headphone jack, you can custom program each of your settings or buttons on your steering wheel control, and you can toggle that by using this. You'll toggle it off if you use one of those vehicle specific adapters. And then the other thing that I'm just going to note real quick is software updates. You can load up. Sony updates their software on these units every once in a while. You might get some new functionality. I've seen that in the past on some of these units where they'll add in certain functionality at a later time. That's cool. So you can go on to Sony.com, load that. You can see this is got set to demo, but that's also something else. When you first open up these units, it might be set to demo mode in the system, so you can toggle that off. But back to software updates, you can go to Sony.com, load up the updated software version onto your thumb drive, plug it into here, and then load it and install it directly from the interface here via that USB drive. So pretty cool. That's all I have for the settings. I'm going to go back home. And while that's actually all I have for you today, I covered off on all the features that I felt were important. I hope you enjoyed this walkthrough. Feel free to post some questions below. We'll try to get some answers to you if there was something that I didn't cover in particular. But if you did like this video, please do me a favor, hit the subscribe button to the channel for more cool product reviews like this one. Thanks for watching.